This episode is brought to you by Michelob Ultra. Michelob Ultra is perfect for more than just the summer heat this year, because not only is it refreshing and crisp with only 95 calories, but Ultra is also the official beer sponsor of Team USA at the Olympic Games Paris 2024. Celebrate every point, race, and moment with Team USA and Michelob Ultra for the Olympic Games Paris 2024. Stock up on Michelob Ultra and cheer on Team USA. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2024 Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Transfer Podcast. I'm Trev Downey, and of course I am joined by our transfer expert, Mr. Dave Davis. How you doing, buddy?
Mate, it's getting excited now. This is Act 3. We have been through Act 1, the PSR dramas, inflated prices, everything around that. We've been through Act 2, the eye of the storm, where there wasn't really too much, let's be honest, going on. There was the odd nibble to keep us sort of nourished, but not too much. It feels like it's all taking off now, doesn't it? They're back from the Euros. They're back from the Copa. Yeah, the Olympics is still going on, but the big boys are in on the action. We can actually talk about us for once as well, Trev, without scratching around. Like, it's all kicking off.
That is my favourite part about what's about to come up on this show, is we actually have something tangible, and yet we don't, but we actually have something that is at least approaching something solid, which, as you said, given, what is it now, 2 months of window open, scratching around, it's nice to do it. Well, let's just start with the big Ornstein bomb. Where else would a person start this show other than that? Now, I just did Dave's show earlier on, and I got a chance to talk to myself about this sort of live for half an hour or whatever. And here's where I'm landing with it. Ornstein confirms, as you have in your notes here, that we have sort of highlighted a number 6 outside the Premier League as a priority. We know who the names are. I want you to go through them again. There may be one or two new ones that you have in the loop outside of the Varellas and Zubamendis and the like of it. We've also then got the Indicala tweet about Bastoni, and of course he fits perfectly the bill. I'm going to say one thing here, Dave, just before we start. Let me get it out of the way. I said it on Dave's show as well. If we are going to put ourselves in a world where we are trusting David Ornstein tweets and Indicala tweets, and I'm not saying they're on the same level, believability-wise, but if that's where we're going, let us do what we did at the start of last summer and say we are willing to be hurt, clearly. That is what we are doing. We are leaving ourselves hostages to fortune. With that caveat, let's go, first of all, with the Ornstein tweet and what you think that implies. If you can segue out of that into the Bastoni thing, which is even more exciting for me.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, David Ornstein, like, we're talking right up at the top, but we've got to be positive about that. So that's number 1. Number 2, Trev, we have said all summer, number 6 is the priority. We want a number 6. Like, you've got to be positive about those types of things. Yes, there's no name which people are jumping on, and let's segue into names here. I mean, you've heard them all, you've seen them all today, no doubt. Zubamendi, Varela, who's the other one? Nico Gonzalez, I've also heard. Johnny Cardoso at Betis, and this is from different suggestions. And you probably remember right at the start of the window, people didn't want to hear this, but what we were being told is, and I use this analogy, Liverpool were carpet shopping, weren't they? Getting quotes, they were looking around, and no one wants to hear the words inquiring, monitoring, interested. No one wants to hear. They want to hear solid stuff. But we've got to put this in context. David Ornstein is tweeting about this, and it's in his deal sheet article or his section. It's important we say that because David Ornstein has the name. He has the name. There's no doubts about, we've been asking around about this all day. No one else seems to have this. In fact, all the indications are that David Ornstein has the name and the club don't want him to say the name. And for obvious reasons, I'd understand as well, but it's not like a public. So we're all speculation. I mean, you've seen all the names, Trev, today from people going, I hope it could be too many. That's possible. I hope it could be this player. I hope it could be Lord Lucan, Red Rum, Shergar, Pickles the dog. We've all seen the potential candidates for this number 6 role. We're going to have to see. But interestingly, there's that line, isn't it? In the next week. He loves just to layer sometimes things, David Ornstein, isn't it? So we're expecting some sort of news in the near future. Who knows? Even by the time this goes out. So it's right to be excited by that for obvious reasons. Bastoni. It's a funny one, isn't it? In India, Kelly, various emotions or opinions we could ask for on this. That will be a show on itself. This might be, to be honest, a manifestation signing because we've been asking around trying to get, and no one has it. Listen, it's an easy manifestation because I believe it. You'd almost be that perfect hybrid, left back, unbelievable at bringing the ball out, his pedigree. It wouldn't be cheap. All those types of things we can put together. And then we can look at things, can't we, like the Inter Milan financial situation we talked about in the summer, how they were a seized asset. Basically, their owner couldn't pay the debt, so the financial company stepped in and took ownership. They're not even football people, so that speculation adds to the mix as well. Can't lie, I've got nothing on it. What I also did, because obviously we do pieces, as we know, Trev, we write for AI as well. I did a little scouting report on Bastoni, and, we do a scout report for AI. We always do Where's It Been Said? And obviously it was from Indy, wasn't it? So I put that in there. Oh my God, you should have seen the messages, people. I've had a mix of, tell me this is true. Tell me this. How someone even messaged me, how dare you write a story like this? And I was like, my God, people, I know the transfer window is intense and passionate, but get a grip, honestly. But excitement today, Trev. The David Ornstein story, we're talking top level, is saying we're after a priority position where me and you have said all summer, we're going to be horrified if we don't get a 6. We have to be honest about this. So let's take it for the positive news and start that it is.
Absolutely, let's do that. And why not? I saw somebody say something recently. When you look around you, I don't know what your timeline's like or what kind of general follow list you have. I thought mine was full of, very sensible people. And it is really, honestly. But the whole timeline is just full of the world blowing up and the worst sides of humanity being on display, and everybody's picking sides and tearing lumps out of each other. And why can't we be a little bit giddy about something as comparatively trivial as transfers? And if we're doing a little bit to giving some people a little bit of crack here today, based on whatever info stroke rumors we can find, that's our good deed for the day as far as I'm concerned. I can't wait for the new Arne slot 2 and the 1 in midfield with Pickles at the head of the little diamond there, and Lucan holding the midfield. That's going to be fantastic. Looking forward to that one immensely. Can I just ask you in relation to that, it's kind of an outgoing story, anything further on the Endo thing? Because this is arising clearly out of the fact that Endo is patently up for grabs.
This is an interesting one in the sense of it's not sort of direct line on the next steps, but Arne Slot clearly doesn't fancy Endo. We've seen that in pre-season. That's all the sort of the briefings through the patch journos that are going out. The big thing that everyone's a bit unsure about, how ruthless is the new ownership structure, the people who are in charge now? Will they bomb out Endo? That's the big question, isn't it? Because we have to be clear, Jurgen Klopp, and the way he would never countenance that. He's would never do that with the player, about loyalty, getting the most. The pros of that is usually you get the most out of an asset. The cons of that, as we know, sometimes the asset stays on the books too long, probably, and people can argue about certain players. With Endo, it's interesting, isn't it? Like you say, you take a glance at the timeline. Some people will be, well, that's great to have a backup and experience and stay around. And I understand that a little bit because of his pedigree and what he could do. However, it's quite clear that Slot doesn't fancy him. He even talked about Grav coming back, didn't he, and playing that 6 role in the United game. I mean, if you did a pecking order, he has to be right near the bottom. You have to be honest about that. And you've seen the pieces that have come out for the amount we rejected off Marseille. Liverpool, being clearly briefing, there's interest from these Bundesliga clubs, i.e., make us a freaking offer. Basically, give us our money back that we paid to Stuttgart. That's all the vibes, if you want, you get from that. I think it's going to be interesting. It would tell you a lot about the new transfer style if Endo is bombed out, shall we say, and really pushed towards the exit door. Because he's even talked as well, Trev, about, I'm used to, number 6 would be good to come in, fight for my place and all that. Sounds great until you're actually tested, doesn't it? It sounds great until the manager sits you down and says, well, this new number 6 is the new number 6. You're behind Grav. You saw me play Curtis Jones there as well for a little bit. Badge, and people, I'm not getting into the 6-8 bed debate for Badge, but could be used there, couldn't he, as well? Yeah, will Endo be bombed out if the 6 comes in? That's the second part of the question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's interesting, the crossover there with the old Klopp era, the ethos, ethics, whatever off that era versus what we might be excited about. I know you and I are probably a little bit atypical in that we're not as perhaps emotionally invested as an awful lot of people are in the players as a kind of culty thing. And so a move like that might actually make me happy, I'll be honest. Nothing to do with Endo, who's a player I like, but if we're showing that kind of ruthlessness, perhaps that's a good thing. We'll wait and see. What's amazing here, Dave, is that we've only talked about one story. We have at least one more story about potential recruitment. However, it is tacked to a very, very worrying outgoing ultimately. Talk to us about this story that broke about signing a keeper, and maybe then you could we'll warn people to hold on to their butts for the second half of it, because it comes with an unfortunate sort of tack on here.
Yeah, as we always say, we dig, we ask, we get the info, we present it back, warts and all type of thing. It's not a case of, we make it clear, I should say, what's our opinion, but that's what we do. We don't always back, we just get the info, we give it back. So, yeah, there was that story, wasn't there? Marmadashvili, the Georgian keeper, linked with a move to being Alisson's replacement, which just seemed weird on the surface, first of all, didn't it, Trevor? And I'll be honest, first of all, when I heard it, I was like, Christ, they're desperate because of lack of Liverpool stories for incomings and that. And it even mentioned we'd sign him a loan and then bring him back, to be Alisson's successor. So I'll be honest, asked around about this to a number of people. I've got to be honest about this, Trev. Got a yes from pretty much everyone I spoke to. There's real substance in this, real substance. And a couple of key details that I got back that we mentioned this right at the top of when we had these shows around the summer window, that with the new changes at Liverpool, that the players were asked, if you're not fully on board with this, we understand it's a big change, whatever that's happening, let us know. We won't put prohibitive silly fees in your way, that type of thing. We won't give you away for free, but tell us a little bit of what you're thinking. And the reason I'm mentioning that is from all the info, and I've got to say this, from a couple of sources pretty much gave the same info, that Alisson had that convo in May, and it was kind of, instead of no, I'm fully committed to the club, it wasn't, I want to leave, but with everything that's happening, I've got a few questions. Let's see the lay of the land in a bit, because, and you saw that Achterberg sort of podcast in you where he said that Ali wanted, talked to the club, said, I wanted it to stay all the same in the goalkeeping department, but Achterberg's gone. The club, they've made that decision, they're changing the structure. Taffer was kept on board, Taffarel, but as Achterberg says in that press conference, if Taffer had gone, Alisson would be going as well. But, there's got to be a limit. I know player power is so much, but who cares? You want to keep Alisson on board. So what does that ultimately mean? The club, and this isn't a criticism of the club, then have to start succession planning a little bit as well, don't they, Trev? It's natural that, okay, what was if he does decide that he wants, and all this type of thing, he's not going to be short of offers, so what do we do? Hence, Marmadashvili. And the reason I'm saying that player is he's not the only keeper I'm going to talk about, by the way. Marmadashvili, as the club are aware from his, and I've never seen him play bar Georgia, so I've never seen him play for Valencia, just in the Euros. Looked a decent keeper, didn't he? But apparently all his Valencia metrics, the way he profiles, we like a lot about him, as in we think this could be one who really goes on. Hence, that bit about signing him at a good price, even prepared to loan him, that's a genuine option as well. We also know that other clubs that have him on their radar, and his agent's very much, talking to them as well. So that's that. The other worrying thing, I don't know if worrying is the right word, but let's just talk the facts that I got back. But there was a keeper rumour ages ago, and I probably pronounced his name wrong. I think De Gregio, I think it's pronounced, an Italian keeper. And his agent, he's linked to Liverpool, but he's chosen to go to Juventus and all this. And it was one of them ones, I'll be honest, I was just like, yeah, whatever, nonsense, dismiss. Nah, quite a few said that was true as well. That was a keeper that we asked about as well. So, I mean, I want to be honest on this. We're not saying Alisson's going. We're not saying we're just presenting back what we were told. But I remember when I kind of got this today, there was a minute where I just thought, Trev, bugger me. We are genuinely countenancing Alisson, Trent, VVD, Salah, potentially being in the 12 months of their end Liverpool career. And we don't know. We could talk about the contract speculation. We don't know. That could all change in the space of a week if people sound renewals. But I don't class it as good news. And I know a lot of people like Marmadashvili, and I can understand why from the talk as a keeper. But I don't see any news where Alisson has told the club, let us see the lay of the land and see where we are in 12 months as good. So, yeah, that's the full kind of warts and all, everything we got from different sources. But I'd like to say it was happier news, but I do not see it that way.
This episode is brought to you by our good friends at NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. I'm sure by now you've all gotten back into your Sunday routines, but they could be even better. With NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV, you get the most live NFL games all in one place, every game, every Sunday. And you can even watch up to 4 different games at once with multi-view, one of my favorite inventions of this decade. It's exactly what you need to catch all the action, make your Sundays more magical. And also, YouTube TV is great. I got it this year. It's awesome. Sign up now at youtube.com/BS. Device and content restrictions apply. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
No, it's impossible to see it as anything other than a terrible, terrible story when you could be looking at the last season of Ali as a Red. The only upside that I can think of, I saw somebody mention this on Twitter, I thought it was a good take. If we are to embrace this new era properly, perhaps that kind of mass change is actually needed. And if we do see a handful of really big signings coming in, perhaps that might be a giddy, exciting kind of thing. And maybe it'll help Arne Slot to have some of his boys there as opposed to him having to work exclusively with Jurgen's boys. And all that entails in terms of the crowd expectations and perceptions of players he's already on a hiding to nothing if it comes down to an Arne versus any of our lads, because they're our lads. Nobody wants to think about Ali leaving, and maybe if we're super successful, that will get put to bed anyway. So let's see how that goes. There is at least one more rumoured incoming, a youngster, an Argentinian, a defender. Let's talk about him before we talk about the guys out.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Julio Soler, I think it's pronounced. So the Lanús, currently at the Olympics, isn't he, with Argentina? And when this news kind of came out, a lot of people thought that's the opportunistic. And remember, Richard Hughes mentioned about the Olympics being but that's the one. It's an interesting one because we spoke to a few South American journalists as we do, and a few of those go, yeah, Liverpool have looked at this boy. There is interest in it. However, pretty much there's nothing on this side of the pond, if you want to put it that way. Pretty much the UK, the patch journos and different people, because Ian Doyle put it in the Echo today. There's nothing in this, and very much the briefings we've got is, yeah, it's a player that Liverpool have watched. We can't deny that, but there's nothing that's imminent, and Liverpool are definitely for this players. And also, I kind of get it, because it's interesting when we give these stories, because we've had a few sort of South America, we had the boy at Mitchell, and Liverpool do watch a lot of players, don't they, and ask for information on players. But that's very different to buying a player and very different to making the move. I think as one South American journo put it quite well, they like this kid a lot. From his attacking sense and his pace, no doubts about it. But the Lanús left back to Liverpool's first team is a ginormous leap and a half. Yeah, so it would be very much a project and it's also one of those, Trev, that one journo put it, if Liverpool had the multi-club, perfect. That's the one where you do it, for 11 million, you put him there. If it would have been like Bordeaux, watch him grow and then see if he's ready, don't you, type of thing. But they don't have that in place at the moment. So South American briefing, in short, yeah, Liverpool have looked at the kid, interested. All the UK side, nothing imminent in that, so don't get too excited.
If there are going to be people coming in, there's going to have to be a certain amount of balancing of the books. We can look now at a sequence of potential earnings for the club, be they from transfers, loans, or a sneaky one, which you might start with on the back of a former Red who may be on his way to Spurs.
Yeah, this one could be a little bit of a windfall. Every little helps. I think it has to say that in it. So, yeah, if Spurs do sign Dominic Solanke, which there is a lot of rumours, isn't there? A lot of speculation. People talking he's got a 65 million release clause. They're wanting to pay 60, but it seems pretty prominent. A lot of journos are confirming, yeah, Liverpool are keeping an eye on this because they hope to get a little windfall from Spurs, funnily enough. Liverpool have a 20% of the profit clause. Now, Dominic Solanke went to Bournemouth from us for 19 million plus add-ons. No one's fully sure what the add-ons are. But, Trevor, I'm not being funny. If call it 19 million, if they sell him for 65, 46 million pound profit, you take 20% of that. That's a nice little 9 million or so chunk of 8 to 9 million chunk of change, depending on what the figures are. Doesn't hurt at all, does it? So it's an interesting one to keep an eye on. And yeah, it might strengthen Spurs and people will talk about that. But every little helps, eh?
Absolutely. Now, in terms of assets that we actually have currently on the books, we spoke in the most recent show. I've been mentioning it on Daily Red the last couple of days, the potential deals that are there on the table for the likes of Fabio Carvalho, Bobby Clark.
Yeah.
They are the two obvious ones, and there have been actual figures thrown about for both of those. I get the feeling we'd like to hang on to Clark as opposed to accept whatever fee was going. I could be wrong there. Talk to us about Carvalho, Clark, and if there is anything else you've heard. For example, there's at least two other players, and I think I'm quoting from an article that you did for Anfield Index, where I was saying it came from your show anyway. It was extrapolated from your show, which I was quoting yesterday on Daily Red, where basically everybody, and we mentioned this before, everybody's roughly at the 20 million mark from Quivine to Fabio.
Literally, they should have produced a leaflet that says Hughes and Edwards estate agents with a nice shiny pamphlet. Do you know what I mean? It's like the price guide. The home buyers reports, I think they call them nowadays, don't they? That's what they could produce for our youngsters in the squad. And people might be cynical on this. Think of the way they've given the info to the journalists. They've been quite clear to put it across in a certain way. As when Kelleher was talked about, a bid north of 20 million, i.e. somewhere around 25. Sepp Sepp's done enough of his advertising himself, hasn't he, anyway? But 20 million and all the stories that have come up being the starting points, that they've got the nice shiny stickers. Look at the recent Bobby Clark article, like you mentioned. Liverpool have got loan offers. It would take at least 12 million to start negotiating. Now, asking around about the Bobby Clark situation, it's a weird one because they like him. He's a talent, absolutely. And I like Bobby Clark. I like what I've seen. I like what I saw at Wembley and, the cup final, all those types of things. He's a talented player. However, Liverpool have a lot of players in that midfield, don't they? We're all of a sudden very well stocked at the same time. And whilst Liverpool are definitely not pushing him out the door, looking to move him on, it's one of those where they'd happily keep him, you're right, but there might just be an amount that thinks, okay, if we've got like 20 million, will we give it? Does that make it? Would there be a tipping point? So it's a strange one with Bobby Clark. Tyler Morton, again, you've seen all the articles about Red Bull, Atalanta, all these teams that are interested. Tyler Morton needs to play, and the noises from around the club are that Tyler Morton wants to play. And again, it's very much let's be honest, if this specialist sixth is coming in that David Ornstein mentioned, where does that leave Tyler Morton, Trev? Let's be deadly on it. Well down the pecking order, struggling to find his minutes. So it would make sense that, again, 20 million, as Paul Joyce put in his article, somewhere around there, we move on. And then the latest, like you said, even as they were flying back on Sunday, Ornstein breaks the Fabio Carvalho news, doesn't he? That a £15 million bid has been rejected by Liverpool from Southampton. Southampton's manager's on Sky Sports telling us how much he admires him and likes him and all this, and says, I know there will be other clubs interested. Romano tries a cheeky little, Leicester have joined the party. At which point, fair play to Lewis Steele of the Mail, just reminds everyone that, hold on, I put this in print 10 days ago and they were also that. But he had a go. Fair play to him. We've got to appreciate the graft, haven't you, at times that way. But the careful wording in the Ornstein article, 50, it's going to be significantly higher again, which makes you think, hold on, what's that figure that keeps getting quoted for all our players? Yeah, 20 million again, isn't it? It's a starting point type of thing, Trev. It's literally like they should have just produced a nice, shiny brochure, price guide type of thing. But 20 million, everything must go, essentially, isn't it, type of thing. And when you stack it up, our squad is bloated. And to be fair to Liverpool, if they don't think these kids now are going to get the minutes, do it. Do it for don't give them away. We've got to be hard bargains and all that. And we want to go back to the days where Edwards was getting things like 20 odd million for Rhian Brewster. And that, we want to see that type of magic again, don't we? We're not against that at all. But it would be nice to almost see them move on, because if they don't see Carp, which I don't think they do, or Morton as real first team options, what's the point in a loan? You've seen them boss it at like Hull, haven't you? What is the point in a loan? It's a waste of time. If they're not going to do it, or at Liverpool, they don't think there's that, move them on. Kelleher, Sepp, everyone will have their opinions. But long story short, there is a nice shiny prize sticker on all these players. And let's be deadly honest, Trev, we are expecting movement on things this week, aren't we?
Yeah, over here at the £20 million shop, you can get whatever you want for 20 million. It's I'm just listening to you there. If half of those to 2/3 of those came off, there's 60, 70 million in the door. And if this new regime is what we think it is, they're going to get very hard to turn up their nose at that type of arrangement, especially if they're going to be outlaying money on new boys. For the Arne era, Dave, we've had over half an hour on the Reds for the first time in the whole summer. So we will take this as a win as we sort of segue away from Liverpool and across the Premier League more generally speaking now, which, is we can kind of happily do now, because we feel like we've got potential over here at our side of things. The biggest story currently for me is the bananas amount of money, although young Hedrick was quick to tell me that he'd have happily seen us spend it on this lad, for Alvarez from Atletico to City. It looks like City are going to cash in to the tune of some 90 million euros, 81.5 million pounds, I think is how it translates. And there's talk of Felix heading the opposite direction on loan. Let's start there. When I saw it, I thought it was an eye-watering amount of money. Like I said, Dave kind of immediately put me in my place in terms of what he thought this lad is actually worth. He's 24. I don't know if he's closer to 25 or 24. I think he has the guts of 30-odd goals and quite a good few assists over 2 seasons. And I know an awful lot of people, including Mr. Hendrick, are very high on him. It seems to be a big outlay for Atletico, but I'm sure they know what they're doing, and there's probably some sort of other deal going on. When I saw it first, it did make me stop. I did one of those record scratch sounds in my head, and I was just like, okay. What's your take on this one, and what do you see as being the underlying thing here with this story?
It was interesting because when this first started to gain legs because Guardiola had been asked about, and he said, well, said the lay down that, oh, by the way, Alvarez said he's going to think about his future. What are you taking that to mean? And Pep was like, gave his normal, he can think what he wants. What he'll do is he'll have to speak to Tiki and then tell us, and we'll go from there. So it's obviously, and this is again when you're asking around, because I thought, and I heard Liverpool mention, oh God, this is just dreamland from a lot of people. The info I got from a fair few people is Liverpool spoke to Alvarez's agents to get the lay of the land.
Wow.
And he was told, forget it. They're not going to sell him to you, number one. Number two, a bit like Luis Diaz, looking to move to somewhere else, not quite a fan of the rain, shall we say, in Manchester, the culture, that type of thing. Hence, where is he set to end up? Atletico Madrid, sunnier climate, Spanish speaking. Simeone's there, isn't he, as well? His countrymen, all those types of things at the same time. It's interesting the way the fee's just gone up, because when it was first linked, it was like Atletico were looking around 50, and then it just kept going up, and then the add-ons kept lumping on. And like you said, with the add-ons, it seems to suggest it's somewhere around £81 million. And it's interesting you mentioned that player, because again, the info we got was Atletico were looking at including Felix if they could, whether it be a loan, offset some of the fee. It doesn't look like that's flown at all at the moment, and that'll come on to the knock-on effect, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the show. I like Alvarez as well. I do think look, his pedigree, Trev. Goals galore in the Premier League, assists galore in the Premier League, World Cup winner. Look at Copper, all the CV for his age of 24 seriously stacks up as well. So I think this is a good move for Atletico personally. And I would have loved it to be something in the Liverpool side, but it was never going to happen. It was like when they were linking Arsenal with him as well. Arsenal, we were told, yes, asked. You can imagine what the response was to the side that finished 1 point below them in the Premier League, trying to sign a striker that would clearly boost them and maybe be their missing piece, let's be honest as well. It's just not going to happen. And that's before the player side and the agent are saying, no, sunnier climates, wanting to move away, that type of thing as well. So I think it's one of those where people will say, it's good money for City, and I can't debate that. But they've got to replace him, haven't they? They've got to get a backup to Haaland now. Haaland, who does get a few injuries as well, let's be honest. They haven't now got a proper striker in there. I know they've got Savinho, but he's more a winger. So there is a bit of a gap. Yes, there's a lot of money to fill that gap, don't get me wrong, but there is a bit of a gap. A noticeable player has left there. So I think it's one of those ones where it's good money. The only thing you ask, Trev, and this will probably annoy Dave as well, Simeone, very defensive style manager, isn't he? We know how he expected his forwards, and look at how it didn't quite work out. Felix there, Morata, there's a lot of strikers, and I know people are going to jump and say, well, the strikers that have succeeded there, like Aguero, etc., there's an Argentinian one, but it will be interesting to see how he gets on. But it's the biggest story of the summer so far for the Premier League, isn't it? It's massive money, it's a massive name departing the Premier League.
There's another club that likes to do big business, and we've been sort of giddy during the week at the thought of them going full Bowley again. And I have to kind of move to Chelsea here, because the story about Conor Gallagher is really interesting in terms of it seems as if the player is being pushed in a certain direction that direction being towards Atletico at the most recent story I heard. And I was speaking today again on the show earlier on Daily Red about the Maresca quote where he says, you know, it's not Chelsea's problem, it's the rules problem. The clubs are compelled to sell players because of the rules. It's not a Chelsea problem, it's a Premier League problem. And I was saying on the show, I mean, that's just spectacularly tone deaf and at best naive. And it might just speak an awful lot, I think, as to why it's Maresca who's the manager there now at the moment and not some massive name, which Chelsea could most certainly afford to have at the helm there. I'm not trying to cast aspersions on Maresca. Maybe he'll turn out to be a wonderful manager for them, but it's just all a bit odd. And not only is Conor Gallagher on his way out, but there's more talk about Chelsea throwing massive money all over the shop. Chat to us about this and your take on it and what you think is happening here.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
Sports Social Podcast Network.